Shabbat Shalom. Welcome, everyone. It's good to be with you and to be able to share. This is actually a extra special Shabbat as we celebrate not only the Sabbath, but kind of the last of this holy day season, the Simchat Torah Atzeret, the end of Sukkot, and the kind of coming around of this loop of Simchat Torah. This has been a beautiful day, as we often think of that verse from Psalm 118. This is the day that God has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. So we sing Ma Yafeh Hayom. How beautiful is this day, this Shabbat, this festival, this end of the holy season.
Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom.
What a beautiful day it is outside. If you haven't been outside, I hope you get to it. And what a day to celebrate Shabbat, the beauty of creation, the way we are all connected to each other and to the earth and to the one true source of life. So I invite you to join me as together we say, we sing, we proclaim the eternal watchword of our faith.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malechuto Leolam Vaed.
On this day when we celebrate Torah, it's worth noting that the Shema, which we just sang, comes from the book of Devarim, and that the next prayer we sing, Mi Chamocha, comes from the book of Shemot, the book of Exodus, and tells the story of the miracle that our ancestors saw when they left slavery and came to the Sea of Reeds and crossed over on dry land. But it's a reminder that there are miracles with us all the time. Not the least of them is that we read Torah still, and have been doing this for at least 2,500 years in public, gathering together and reading these words. And so we turn to the Mi Chamocha and thank God for the gifts that are in our lives.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, Mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, Mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh. Nora tehilot osef eleh, Nora tehilot osef eleh, Adonai imloch leolam vaed. Ay la 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 la, ay la 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 la, ay la 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 la, ay la 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 la. Adonai imloch leolam vaed, Adonai imloch leolam vaed, Adonai imloch leolam vaed.
We take a few moments now for silent prayer, thoughts, meditations, reflections.
We pray that everyone in the world may know the beauty and the sense of peace and wholeness of Shabbat as we pray these words of Oseh Shalom together. Oseh Shalom Mimroma, Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'al Kol Yoshvei Tehivel, Ve'imnu. Oseh Shalom Bimroma, Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'al Kol Yoshvei Tehivel, Ve'imnu. Oseh Shalom Bimroma, Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'al Kol Yoshvei Tehivel, Ve'imnu.
I'm old enough to remember that when we would get a day like this, a warm day in October, we could just accept it totally with joy and pleasure that there was this respite from what we know is coming, Chicago winter. And yet nowadays, I mean, it's hard to just enjoy that moment without also thinking of the fact that we are living in a climate crisis and that this warmth may indeed have something to do with the warming of our planet. And so we turn to our prayer for our planet in the hope that we can take care of it and one day get back to a place where we can enjoy its abundance simply. Creator of the universe, help us understand that to master the world means to take responsibility, not only for ourselves and our posterity, but to protect all of the creatures on earth. Help us to use the power you gave us to build a better living world and not casually destroy the beautiful one we have borrowed from our children. We are the stewards, your partners in creation. We call on you for help and guidance. Our God and God of our ancestors and God of our children, in this time of climate crisis, help us. Show us how to become true stewards of life. Help us to preserve life, protect it, and defend it. We owe it to the children, those born and those yet to be. If not for us, then for them, dear God. Guide us on our momentous journey. Amen.
Together, then, we pray for healing not only for our planet, but for all those individuals in our family, friends, our loved ones who are in need of healing. We say their names to ourselves. We say them in our heart as we sing the Misha Berach prayer.
Misha Berach Avoteinu Mekor Amrachaim the source of strength, who bless the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishevera imoteinu Mekor Abracha Lavoteinu. May the source of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone, friends. This is not just Shabbat. This is, we're coming to the end of our kind of intense holiday season as we end with Simchat Torah, which literally means rejoicing, Torah rejoicing, rejoicing with the Torah. And I was thinking about sort of titling this drash, this Devar Torah, some random observations on Simchat Torah, because I was thinking there's just so much to this holiday, so much to what we understand as Torah. And the kind of first random observation is that Simchat Torah, or in the way that Jews have understood Simchat Torah, kind of reflects a Jewish perspective, worldview. Now, what do I mean by that? So on Simchat Torah, what we do traditionally, unfortunately, we can't do it live in person in our sanctuary with everyone this year, but we read the last words of the book of Deuteronomy and trying in the very same breath to read the first words of the book of Genesis. Now you think, why? Why? I mean, when you read a book, do you immediately, once you finish, start reading it over again? Like, is that like you immediately turn from the back page to the front page and start reading again? Typically, if you're reading a novel or you're reading even a nonfiction book, we don't typically do that. So why do we do that with the Torah? Well, part of it is because we have to keep learning. There's a beautiful teaching in the Talmud that says someone who's read the Torah 100 times is not as knowledgeable as someone who has read it 101 times. So every time we read through the Torah, every time we study it, we can come up with new insights, new observations. That's the beauty of Torah. We're constantly growing. But there's another part of that too. We're constantly growing, but we're also constantly repeating, right? Kind of like we're in the time of changing of seasons. As Rabbi Ike said, it doesn't feel like a sort of crisp fall day, but it feels like a kind of end of summer day. But we are in a change of seasons. But the seasons repeat themselves every year. We have the same 4 seasons every year. The sort of, there's a rotation. That's kind of it's almost like a circular view of life. So there are times where life feels like it's repeating itself, going circular. But then there's also, within that same life, there's also growth and change and development. So we're going through the Torah again, we're repeating ourselves, but through each repetition, we're growing in knowledge and wisdom. And that's what happens in life, and that's what our Jewish tradition teaches, that we grow and change, but there's also much that stays the same. Every year we observe Rosh Hashanah. Every year we're reading the same Torah portions in our cycle. That's our lives. Second random observation about Simchat Torah are the last two or the last letter of the Torah and the first letter of the Torah. And the last letter is Lamed, Yisrael. So the last letter of the word Yisrael is Lamed, and the first letter of the first word is Bet or Vet, same thing, just has a different dot, Bereshit. And that word, those two letters form the word Lev. as in heart, lev. The Torah begins and ends with compassion, with heart. So our Torah, what we study, it's not just about knowledge. It's not just about what's up here. It's also what's in here. That our tradition, we're a tradition of the mind. We're also a tradition of feeling of the heart. The two are closely connected. So what we aim for, I mean, we think about this when we talk about what's our philosophy at our religious school, and the philosophy is captured in the name, lev, heart. We're training our hearts. We're trying to build a deeper, more passionate, a bigger heart. That's what our Jewish tradition at its best does. It helps us become better human beings. That's why Maimonides said the whole purpose of Torah is to refine the human character. So that's what we're trying to do in everything we do Jewishly. It's not just to, check off that we did this mitzvah or that mitzvah. It's to grow as human beings. And Simchat Torah really embodies that idea. The final random observation about Simchat Torah is what we mean when we say the word Torah. What do we mean when we say Torah? Well, there's the Torah, which is the 5 books of Moses, the Pentateuch, what we have in our Ark. But there's also Torah. The word itself means teaching or process. And in a way, the whole world can be our Torah. The whole world can be an experience through which we learn and grow and develop. The Torah is the beating heart of the Jewish people. But Torah as an idea, as a process, it's possible everywhere. We can have, how there's those books like the Tao of Pooh about Winnie the Pooh and his wisdom, the Tao, what is that book? Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. Well, that's not Tao, but you can use Tao in so many different phrases. You could also use Torah in the same way. Torah permeates all of life. And so as we celebrate Simchat Torah and we honor the Torah, the reading of the Torah, we can also try to look inside for our own Torah. What is our unique offering, our unique teaching we can give to the world? What's our unique gift? Is it a charity that we love? Is it a particular set of knowledge that we have? What is our Torah? And how can we give our Torah to the world? Maybe let's ask ourselves that question as we celebrate this Simchat Torah. Shabbat Shalom and a Chag Sameach, a happy and sweet holiday.
Yesher Koach, and thanks for those not so random thoughts on Simchat Torah. That was lovely. And if you have the opportunity, all of you who are watching this, to join us for Simchat Torah, we'll be live streaming from the sanctuary Friday night and Saturday morning. And so you'll have that opportunity to hear the end and the beginning of Torah. And of course, if you want to join us for Yizkor, that will be part of the Saturday morning service as well. If you only want to come to Yizkor, I mean, I can't tell you exactly when it's going to begin, but I'd say you could probably tune in starting around 11:20 tomorrow morning, and you'll catch the Yizkor prayers for sure. We have a lovely bat mitzvah, coming bat mitzvah tomorrow as well. So that starts at 10:30, and we invite you to join us for the whole thing. And Yizkor, we'll get there around 11:20 or so. So our thoughts turn to those who are no longer with us. We're thinking of those who have died in recent days and weeks in this pandemic in our nation, around the world. We think too of those who have suffered from storms and fires and lost their lives in the southern part of our country and in the West. We're thinking too of those who have lost their lives in acts of violence in our own community and across the nation. We pray for a coming of God's peace. We think of those we've lost, our loved ones, in recent days and at this time in years past. We turn to the words of the Kaddish Yatom, the mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dachol beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'alamo olme olmaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal Shmei de Kudisha Brichu, Leilo min kol birchata v'shirata, Tushbehata v'nehemata, Damiran bi'alma v'imru, Amen. Yehi Shlomo Rabba min Shamaya, V'haim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen. Osei Shalom b'mromav, Huya asei Shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen. And so we know the world is not perfect, and there are a lot of things going on. The news cycle seems to go at an incredible speed these days as we are rushing headlong towards an important election. But we also know, as Rabbi Evan talked about, that Torah is a centerpiece of our lives and that we can live our lives through Torah. So as we celebrate Simchat Torah, we do rejoice today. We rejoice in the Torah. And so our closing song is all about that, about loving and living by Torah.
Torah, 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 tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 tziva lanu Moshe. Morasha Keilat Yaakov, Morasha Keilat Yaakov, Morasha Keilat Yaakov. Torah tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 tziva lanu Moshe.
Shabbat Shalom, Hag Sameach, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.